Hey everybody, Happy New Year! We're gonna get started here in just a second. Lots of fun things to do today. If you are on a mobile device, you're gonna wanna rotate it so that you can be able to chat with us here on the YouTube interface. And if you have some files, we'll probably have some time today that you want us to take a look at, see what we can do. This will be great. Just upload them somewhere, put the link in the text window, and we have time, we'll take a look at it. If not, we'll do it next week. But we are here, gonna be back here week on now for 2019. So we'll get started here in just a sec. There we are. Oh, I should probably go here. And if you're just joining us now, if you've got something you'd like us to look at for the show, we'll probably have some time here at the end to take a look at something you want us to, whatever that might be. Ideally in stereo, but it doesn't have to be. You could upload surround stems if you'd like, mono, whatever. Take a look at it, whatever you'd like to have questions asked or fixed. And just upload it somewhere, give us the download link, and we'll get rolling on it. And if you, of course, have any questions, it's generally about the Cinema Sound Education. We're in the fix volume. Drop it here, and we'll go. We'll get an answer. 10 seconds to go. Oh yes, fade to black. Welcome to Cinema Sound 2019, yes. And the compression. I'm Mark Edward Lewis, your host. Welcome to the show, where basically we're going through step by step the Cinema Sound Education, which is also available on MZ. And we are now in the Fix volume, a very interesting and fun volume where everybody wants to know, hey, gee, how do I get my audio sounding better? Let's go full screen. And we've done an awful lot of stuff here over the last few weeks. We've been kind of in and out because of the holidays, but now we're going to be back week by week by week. And we will get your questions and everything else handled, answered, up and running with Hollywood level media as fast as possible. So here in the fix, we've gone over all kinds of things. The last week we did, I believe, Adobe Audition de-reverb, which is brand new feature, which did very, very well for us. Hold on a second here. My iPad is not muted. How awful. And then before that, we've done a lot of stuff with Isotope RX. And we'll be looking at here in the future dealing with expansion, multi-band expansion. If we can find a multi-band expander that we can use that's easy to get. You know, in the education, we use the Isotope version of it, which they no longer offer, unfortunately. But I'm pretty sure we'll come up with a good source for a good plug-in source for you on that. In fact, I can think of a couple already that'll work. But today we're going to be taking a look at a couple of, I'm going to call them outlier plugins and apps that you can use in a for very specific issues, very specific problems that you're going to have with audio. And the first one we're going to look at is a program called Spectral Layers Pro. Now, I have to admit the version I have is somewhat old. I have not updated it. It's at version 5 now. This is version 3. And the version 5, from what I can understand, is got some really cool interface upgrades and some advanced algorithms. But the basics of what Spectral Layers Pro is can be found all the way back to 2, when it was owned by Sony, and now Magix with an X, M-A-G-I-X, owns Spectral Layers. So let's see. Announcements. First of all, hey, again, Happy New Year. Fantastic. Let me see if I can get this thing in a better place. It's kind of not getting me what I want. All right. And Happy New Year. So Cinema Sound, I hope that all of you who pre-ordered the Foley library have downloaded it by now, have figured out all the issues that we had with unzipping everything, because we did figure out what was wrong. And just so you know, if you're zipping anything using the built-in Mac compressor, no problem if you're sending it to a Mac. And no problem if you're sending it to a PC if it's under 2 gigabytes, the files, the resulting file. But if it's over 2 gigabytes, there's something that the good folks at Apple thought was smart to do, which wasn't, that they're changing the main directory, whatever, and you can't actually, Windows people cannot open those files from zipped from a Mac if it's over 2 gigs, so you have to use some other application. But we've been able to do that, so that's cool. If you don't donate, that's great. If you don't download your files from the Cinema Sound Foley Library pre-sale by February 1st, then there will be a charge, because we are pulling all of that stuff down. So if you pre-ordered, you have an email. If you don't have an email, please get in touch with us as soon as possible. You've got like, 3 weeks to download it. So get on that. Then NAMM Show LA is coming here to Anaheim. Come out to LA, have fun at NAMM, go to Disneyland across the street, Disney California Adventure. Let me know if you're going to be here. I'd love to have lunch with you or hang out, because we will all of us music folks, audio folks, will be in the land of Anaheim, along with probably, 150,000 other people. As an actual figure, 150,000 people. It's madness. You think NAB is madness, which it is, and coming up as well. But NAMM is on our calendar, and it's just basically for us here at Cinema Sound in our back door. So let us know if you're coming, and that'll be cool. We'd love to see you all. Awesome. Then you may have noticed that we've been doing this thing called Lewis Says. And it's not necessarily that much of educational content per se, but what I'm doing is, just when things come to mind, my snarky, opinionated self put something out, hopefully with some kind of educational content, something hopefully of value. The one that just went out was about how to make really great duct tape and things like this. But you may have noticed that there haven't been a lot of other articles that have come out, not just because of the holidays, but because I'm doing something that I think will change all of your lives. An article that should be, if all goes well, coming out in a couple of days. Let me see if I can give you a hint of what it is about without me unplugging myself. I have a box here filled with what's left, so I can get you to see it. There we go. Of batteries, AAs to be precise, and we have gone through every AA that Amazon sells that you can get via Prime or otherwise. Here's a battery manufacturer called AM Volt. Probably never heard of them before. How about these? Allmax. Have you seen them? How about Internova? There's one. We've got almost all the alkalines and a bunch of lithiums. This is the Energizer Advanced Lithium, which we are doing final checks on right now, which is one of the reasons why some of you who are inquiring have already figured out I'm on a Rode lavalier. I'm on the Filmmaker kit right now because we've been testing them all with the Ceramonic transmitters, the UW Mic 9s. And you're like, well, why are you doing that? Well, because there's a lot of videos out there that tell you, hey, these batteries are better than those, they last longer, or they're better value. But nobody is really telling you, oh, here's these, the Energizer Industrial. I'll give you a sneak peek. Don't ever buy these. But nobody ever does it for transmitters. And that's really for us audio folks where we use a lot of batteries. If you're on set, you're going through those batteries, hopefully as fast as possible so you never lose a take. But so we've gone through an exhaustive we're probably going to be 3 weeks before we're done, going through test after test, dozens upon dozens and dozens, maybe over 200 batteries actually that we've gone through and tested. Here are these are lithium, these are Energitech. I don't know, I've never heard of them before, but we tested them. And of course, everybody's favorite, the Amazon Basics. And what we ended up doing, for years I've been using these, thinking that they were the longest lasting, best value for professionals, AA batteries. Anybody use these, the Duracell Pro Cells? And we basically ran our tests and made this sort of our, what the basic was. We were very surprised at what we found out. You probably haven't heard of PK cell batteries. There's 2 varieties we tested. What are fun things in here? We did the Polaroid zinc carbons. This is my personal favorite, this battery. This is the Rayovac Fusion. Rayovac Fusion, their tagline on the packaging, people, says, the longest lasting alkaline battery. I can tell you, that's not true. Somebody should write a note or sue them or something, please. We did Evereadys, these are golds. And then AC Delco, they've been around since dirt. They've been making car batteries since the 40s, like during World War II. They're making consumer batteries now, and I can't wait to show you the results. We have one more test. Oh, here's the Polaroid. Actually, this is the alkaline Polaroids. We have one more test that we're doing. Hey, Max. And performance in mics. Max is asking a full new review of battery performances and performance in mics. Well, the performance in mics is already up. It's been up for a year. We keep building it. It's called the Cinema Sound Microphone Archive, and it's on Cinema Sound. We've taken every microphone that we've been able to get our hands on, although we haven't done the Ceramonics yet. We got some work to do. We've been a little busy. We've tested them. We recorded them in as similar an environment as we possibly can, using a piano, using dialogue, and using sound effects and various capsules. So that's already up there. And instead of us making up our mind, because microphones, unlike batteries, right? I mean, a battery either lasts X long, X long, and costs X much, or it doesn't. There's no real taste involved. I'm gonna put it in your mouth, but microphones, not only do they sound different to different people for different uses, but like different sound choice uses, but also for genre. I mean, there's one microphone that would be great maybe for dialogue, but another one that's not so good for recording a piano. Maybe another one that's great for sound effects or really transient gunfire or something like this, but not good for dialogue. So we've kind of left up the opinion, if you will, to you. And you can go on the website, go on to Cinema Sound, and there is that microphone archive. We have everything up on SoundCloud, and you can just listen. It's organized by manufacturer and type. And if you want a specific microphone that's not on the library, just let us know, and we'll see if we can get a hold of it, see if we can get that in-house, and we will test it. But like I said, even though Saramonic is currently a sponsor, hold on a second. My back has been a little not so good. I heard it back in December. That is one heavy box of batteries. A very heavy box of batteries. But we will get those up. We just need to have a session and go back through them. It's actually, go back through them. It's a lengthy process, not only in recording, but also in just doing all the editing and making sure the volumes are the same, so there's no advantage. Yeah, so that's where the microphones are. Let's see. Is there any other announcements that we have? Well, I can tell you that Adobe Audition is coming out with some great stuff. Oh, I know. NAB. NAB, thank you for those of you who responded to wanting to help us out with the Cinema Sound booth. We're actually not going to do that now this year, mainly because Saramonic is having us at their booth, sort of hosting us, and I'm going to be doing several demonstrations about their microphones. Again, Max, you might want to come hang out at NAB and fly out, and we'll be testing them there. We won't have any headphones. I'm going to see if I can con them into having some headphones so people can really listen. I might have to bring some of my own and my own gear, but so I'm going to be at the Saramonic booth, doing a lot of demonstrations, and then I'll be hanging out probably around JBL and, of course, seeing our friends at Adobe. So if you're at NAB, definitely look us up. I'm going to be there the whole time. It'll be so awesome. Max, let's see. I meant battery performance in mics and transmitters. Where possible, I now use a USB power bank connected to my transmitters to overcome batteries wanting to die at inappropriate moments. It's taken me $400, over $400 US, and almost 3 weeks to do the testings that we have in transmitters, just straight transmitters. So if you wanted to find out at that current draw, what we've discovered, because we did 2 current draws, a strong current draw and a portable fan, and then in the transmitter. So we have a really good coefficient about how these batteries have done at high levels and at low levels of current draw. So if you want to test, could take a look at our results when they come out and buy some yourself and see if there's a big coefficient between your mic transmitter and the actual, like the transmitter I'm on here. See, and let us know what you come up with. I mean, I really hope that this article, when it comes out, and we're going to do a video too, just kind of breaks open the battery market. Because you're like, well, batteries are batteries. Check it out. I can give you a sneak peek right now. You ready? You want a little sneak peek? Check it out. The difference in price per battery per hour from the winner in value, not in length, but in value, in price per hour, the smallest price per battery, to 10th place, and we tested like 25. 10th place is 3.3 cents per hour per battery. And you're like, well, that's nothing. Well, you'd say that, wouldn't you? Except in a transmitter, you have 2 batteries. It's 6.6 cents. You have a 10-hour day on set. That's 66 cents. If you have a 6-day week, it goes up from there, to the point that if you're working 48 weeks a year, you're saving $190 by getting the better value microphone. And to your point about a microphone, battery, and your point about them dying in inappropriate places, we've also been able to chart all of the lengths of them and been able to rule out which ones are not appropriate for being on set, because we want batteries that can last at least 10 hours in a transmitter. So if you forget to change them out at lunch and you're in the middle of the take, you're not getting a red light, you're okay. You're okay. So it's I'm really proud of this study, and it's probably going to come out in a couple of days. Any takers on what the best battery value was and what the longest lasting value in any category is? Post it here. Lithium, alkaline, or zinc version, which is the best value and which is the worst value? Take a guess. We're going to get going. It's 15 minutes in. Let's roll. Okay, so Spectral Layers Pro. Spectral Layers Pro. Let me put us onto the screen here. Hi. So here's Spectral Layers Pro. Again, version 3. It's a bit old, but you'll forgive me if I didn't want to spend the $200 to upgrade, especially when version 3 does pretty much the same what version 1 does. And well, not 1, but 2 and 5 from what I would use it for. Can you use it to do general denoise? Yes, you can. It's pretty good. We'll take a look at that as well. But it has a very specific capability. And it's going to help me educate a point for you tonight, which we educate you about in the fix volume, about harmonics and overtones and how killer they are, in how greatly important they are in telling your brain, which is always lying to you, especially in this zone, telling your brain what sounds it should know are what. What's the difference between an airplane and a locomotive? What's the difference between my voice and Max's voice? What's the difference between a violin and a viola? Not just pitch, but harmonics, overtones, sound quality. And that's what we're going to teach. I'm going to show you. In fact, why don't we just jump into that now? I'm going to pull up in my sound effects library here, and everybody wants to know how I do my sound effects. I probably have several million sounds organized into all of these folders here that I just jumped through. And you're like, well, these are organized really badly. They were organized by manufacturer. Yeah, because I don't use SoundMiner or anything like that, because they, SoundMiner, any of these programs could easily change how they do what they do. And then I got to change how I want to do. But the Mac system hasn't changed in about 15 years, and that's pretty good for me. I can change once every 15 years or so, and the search engine is about the same. So I go by the names of the files. By the way, if you haven't downloaded the Adobe sound effects, how big is this folder? It's only 16.25 gigabytes worth of sound effects. Go get the folder. In fact, how do you download that? Is it here? Download sound effects and more in Adobe Audition under Help. What? I'm telling you, go do it tonight. Free. So I'm going to circle this, and I'm going to say locomotive. Locomotive. Let's see if I can get horn out of it. And I'm going to click on sound effects. Nope. Let's just try train horn. There we go. And it's just searching the names. Let's see. Diesel train, engine horn. It's going to come out of my internal speaker. That's weird. Train by with horn. I don't want Doppler. I just want a straight horn. How about this one? That's pretty good. Is it mono? It probably is. It is. How about this one? Is that also mono? It is. How about this one? That might be stereo, and it is. Okay, we're going to drop this into Spectral Layers Pro here for a second. Drag and drop. You can use import if you'd like as well. Yay! So like RX and Adobe Audition, this is a spectral view, and every program has its own kind of flavor of spectral view. I can see that I am sort of blocking this. Let's just move this over a little bit here. Put this up here. Cool. I'm going to use T for time. I love that reverb and everything else that's in there. It's super cool. You can hear that, right? There's a minor, for those of you who are musical, it's a minor triad, minor three notes and a minor chord. Right there, And if we look, I'm going to use the magnifying tool. Slide it over here and then just drop us over here. This is the fundamental. Why is it? What does that mean? That means that it's the bottom note that your brain is going to interpret as the actual note. And you're like, well, Mark, what's all this junk up here? Those are overtones. That's the nature of the sound that is telling your brain what the sound is. What kind of sound is it? And impossibly, your brain is able to sort all of this out and be able to go, oh, these overtones belong to that fundamental. These overtones over here belong to that fundamental, and these belong to that one. And it sorts it out. If you were to look at this as you are right now, you'd like, well, that all just looks like a bunch of gobbledygook. And it would be to your visual brain, but your audio brain, since you were an infant, knows immediately, hey, These are all separate sounds. And if you listen carefully, you can see that the high frequencies really start showing up here as it ramps in. Now, you hear all those high frequencies. That's not just hiss, that's actually the overtones. In fact, we're going to bring up the volume here so you can see it a little bit better. There we go. Kind of overdo this, but you can see. Cool. Well, what happens is that a lot of people get into spectral editing like this, and they hear a siren or they hear a horn like this, and they're like, oh, I'm just going to get rid of this fundamental. And if I get rid of the fundamental, that should get rid of the note, and the rest of this shouldn't matter, which, you know, logically makes a lot of sense, actually. Let me move this over. Actually, train horn. Yeah, be fine. Here's all our tools. So if I select using this singular selection tool, that's this one, is so like an RX where you want to solo a frequency. What's great about Spectral Layers Pro is it sort of helps you. I'm not actually clicking yet, and you can see how it sort of interprets which one you want. So if I actually click on this fundamental, it will play it for me. And I'm getting a little bit of that bottom one. Da, 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 da. But notice what it sounds like, that fundamental without the overtones. Let's see if I can get it actually. Let's see, super narrow. Yep. Even in the middle of all of these harmonics, if I slip down and get these, listen. Kind of just sounds like a sine wave. Ooh. You wouldn't know if I were to say to you, hey, you closed your eye. Oh, man. So I've got a stylus. It's sort of hard to do this. Straight line. If I were to say to you, what is this? You wouldn't know. You'd think it's some kind of a recorder. And I don't mean like recorder. I mean like musical recorder. You wouldn't know. Even if I add the next overtone up, I'm going to hold shift and do this next one. You're like, well, how do you know that's the next overtone? Well, because it sort of starts in the same place. You wouldn't know that's a train, not even close. If I add the next one up, which is probably this weird seventh partial right here, maybe even the next one after that. I'm starting to get into the other ones, but you wouldn't know that was a train whistle, not even close. It requires all of these overtones up here, and if we really go loud, look at how many of them are, even over here. I mean, they just go way up. Look at this, 14,000 hertz, up beyond human hearing. And this is a 48K recording, so way beyond that. So what do we have to do to get rid of these sounds? Well, we would have to select all the overtones. And in RX, Isotope RX, there is a tool that allows you to select up to 10 overtones, which is super helpful. Unfortunately, you have to kind of help it select the one. And if we do that, let's just try that 10. This actually shows you how many overtones you want to select and which one of these is the overtone you are choosing. Pretty cool, right? So if you didn't know what the fundamental really was, you could say, oh, I'm going to choose one of these other partials, and it'll figure out the rest. It's cool. But we know what the fundamental is. We see it here. And look at this. If I just want to choose this again, notice that it chooses the correct mathematical overtones from this fundamental. Let's see what happens. Now, it's obviously one horn, but you'd get that it was a horn. But maybe not fully because you've only got 10 of those overtones. But Spectral Layers Pro has something that I don't know that any digital audio workstation has. This isn't a digital audio workstation, but even any other program, it allows you to get to 60. Now, 60 is going to take you, even at the lowest frequencies, well beyond human hearing. Look at this. If I can select down here, it goes way up to the 20K zone. So let's try this with 60 partials or harmonics. See if it makes a difference. Now you're streaming, so you might not hear the difference in how much more high frequencies, what we would consider high frequencies, but it's just the timbre, and it helps your brain go, oh, that's a horn. And if I select the middle one, notice that it's doing a mathematically good job of selecting. Of course, it gets hard for me to select in here, but anyway, so let's talk about the inverse. Well, what if we cut off the fundamental? What if we just take out, the fundamental and leave the harmonics? Well, let's see what happens there. So in this case, I'm going to keep the 60 on. I'm going to just select this amount here. And then I'm going to go to the erase tool. And I'm going to erase. And I don't want to erase that, actually. Let's do select, single select. And I'm just going to hold down Option and get rid of this fundamental selection. Get that. In fact, let's get the whole horn. Let's just do all 3 tones. You would still kind of know that that's not a sine wave. You would know, hey, there's something blowing there. We'll just get all 4 of these all 3 of these if we can. Pretty much. Now we'll take out the fundamental with Option. Come on. There you go. Careful not to get the other harmonic. Look how cool this is to use. So cool and accurate. I'm going to show you something else in a moment that's going to blow your doors off. If you've been to Sound Advice tour a few years ago, you know what I'm about to do. But check it out. Now, without the fundamental, you kind of know that was a horn. You would. You would, even though there's no fundamental, your brain, which is always lying to you, is making up the fundamental in your head. It's one of the reasons why we know we can cut off bass frequencies when we're doing an internet delivery, and the listeners will make it up anyway. Their brains, which is amazing. So, and check it out. If we want to do, let's see here, like maybe the middle. Oops. You still kind of get it. You understand that it's a horn. So with this in mind, understanding that harmonics are everything, and that the more harmonics we can easily select, the better and more successful our edits are going to be for cleanup and fixing, then Spectral Layers Pro, because it will allow you with this multi-selection tool to have 60 overtones or partials or harmonics, that makes it a superior tool for dealing with all kinds of problems. So let's deal with a problem. No, thank you. We're going to go here, and I want to look. Oh, my goodness. I don't know what I'm looking at here. Cinema Sound Symposium, Chapter 6. Let's look at this. Is this the one? Let's see. Oh, yes. Sort of quiet, so we'll bring it up. Now, if you've been to Sound Advice, you know exactly what this noise is in here. First of all, you would already know that this is dialogue if you've been with us at all on Cinema Sound. It looks like dialogue. You can see the sibilants up here and the body of the voice down here. But what's this stuff that's going like this? What is that? All right, we're out here on my iPhone 7 Plus with an IXY from Rode, happily in stereo with cars going by and nice little squeaky noises from... Bummer, right? Total bummer. All right, we're out here on my... So you're an ADR. If this was, we want to be recording dialogue on an iPhone 7, but... All right, we're out here on my iPhone 7 Plus with an That's a big problem. And we would need to, even in RX, have to select some of these individually. We would have to really turn up the heat on this, and it becomes very difficult, even if we zoom in, to see where these overtones lie. Come on, behave. Oh, I gotta go like this. That's going to be very difficult to have to draw and find freehand. So with Spectral Layers Pro, with our multi-selection tool, we're going to do something that if you haven't seen this before, hold on to your hats. So this selection tool helps us kind of helps us figure out our selection, because your selection isn't ever going to be perfect, but it does a good job of saying, oh, I kind of get what he's wanting to select. Let's do this. All right, now we'll listen to our selection. So we have a little bit of the dialogue in there, but we're going to copy and, oh, let's make it, okay, copy. And then we're going to make a new layer just like we would in Photoshop. You can't delete this. Oh, sorry, I meant this one. We're going to call this Siren. Yay. And in this Siren layer, we're going to paste. This turns a different color. We're going to mute the background, the rest of it. We're going to deselect. Mute. All right. Yes. Why are you doing that there? Deselect, please. There you go. And you can sort of see the little blips from sibilance and some of the stuff that we selected that we really, didn't want to necessarily select, but it was very difficult because it's so embedded in there, the siren. So we're going to zoom in. We're going to kind of get the overtones right. Now we're going to do something that nobody else is really doing yet, although they're trying. And that is, if I click on the little cube here, I can do this. What? Now look how much easier that is to edit in a 3D view. If I go to my eraser tool, I want a height in hertz of about 400 hertz and a width of about 1/3 of a second. I can go in here and see these little blips and just be able to quickly take them out. Now this is going to take me a little bit of time here. I'm just going to take this bit out there. Just anything that doesn't look like a siren, which should be really uniform. It shouldn't be all jagged like this. So if it's jagged, like this stuff here, then I know that's probably sibilance or something else that I don't want to be in this. And you're like, well, why not? Well, what we're going to do here in a second is remove the siren. That's why we've put it on a different layer. We've put the siren on a different layer. I didn't want that. We put the siren on a different layer because that gives us control, just like you would in, an Adobe product. And then with that control, you can do all kinds of things as applied to other layers. I didn't really want to do that either. I want this. There you go. And we're going to do that in a very specific and somewhat complex and yet elegant at the same time process. Have any of you tried to use Spectral Layers Pro? And you know what I'm going to do. If you know what phase cancellation is, and we talk about this at length in the Cinema Sound Education, it is that you can take one signal, flip the phase on it, and apply it so that it cancels another signal. Well, what the heck does that mean? That was a weird explanation. Well, if I have a signal that goes up and take that signal and flip it so that it actually goes down, if the one goes up and down and the other one goes down and up, and I apply them together, I get zero. I get canceled. So if I take, especially in the digital realm, if I take something that has, a siren per se, and flip the phase on that siren, it will cancel the correctly phased siren in a track. So check this out. If I unmute the regular, now you can see the difference. Here's the selection that we have on layer 2 in sort of that limey green or the brighter aqua, and then the background there. This button right here, might be hard to see, this little plus, allows you to flip the phase. And you can see here what's going on. If I flip it, it gets dotted, letting me know that it's flipped. And now that the phase has been flipped, let's see, flip the phase, please. Thank you. All right, we're out here on my iPhone 7 Plus with an IXY from Rode, happily in stereo with cars going by and nice little squeaky noise. What? All right, we're out here on my iPhone 7 Plus with an IXY from Rode, happily in stereo with cars going by and nice little squeaky noises from brakes. And you're like, well, what was all that whooshy noise? Well, it's a very noisy environment, and if we were to really do this right, we would have done a denoise first and then applied this so that you don't hear the comb filtering of the removal happening in the background noise. But notice that there's almost no chirpiness going on in the voice, which is what we would normally expect from some kind of normal denoising pass. All right, we're out here on my iPhone 7 Plus with an IXY from Rode. I mean, it sounds seamless, and of course we could get in there and edit it. You can hear it kind of poking in and out. We might do a better edit. I'm just going fast, but anyway, that's the deal with that's one of the superpowers of Spectral Layers Pro from Magix, that you can do this kind of granular harmonic editing, and you can see from that train example that doing this kind of editing is super, super important. Let's see. If you have any questions about this, this is cool. Let me show you a general denoise. We're going to mute the siren here for a second. Let me see. I'm going to pull up another example just so you can see what what denoising is like here. Let's not save, because it will do it. It's not really its strong suit, but I do want to show it to you just so you can see. You can see it. Cool. Nice. Oh, this is the example I'm going to show you in a second. Well, this is inside of a car and then a door close, and then it's very quiet. But let's get this outside sound. So what we'll do is we will shift select the whole broadband experience. You can see this is a compressed recording because there's nothing in the high frequencies. That's what compression does. Process, restoration, register noise, like we do in Audition. Capture noise print. This is the same thing, register noise. Once you do, it's great. Then we select the part that we want to denoise, in this case, everything to the right of or the left of the door close. Process, restoration, noise reduction. You also have reverb reduction. Pretty simple stuff. You have a tolerance. How smart is it about noise? And then how much of it do you want? If we make it 100% and a big tolerance. You can also make it listen to just the noise. If you want to get rid of just the voice. Oh, that's what we were listening to. This is now the reduced noise. If you listen to my voice at this really draconian setting, you can hear it's kind of really, really chirpy. It's all weird. So if we take the tolerance down some, there we go. And we can hit OK. It does its process. And now you can see it's chunked all of the noise out there in a really, really strong fashion. Works pretty well. And again, with the siren, we probably should have denoised denoise first, although you can't really denoise if you have a siren blaring through your noise, so that's hard. Another great reason to get room tone. Anyway, that's Spectral Layers Pro, kind of generally how it works. I'm going to show you the next really wild and obtuse thing that it's cool, and we're going to jump to Adobe Audition. I'm going to pull up, and this has probably never happened to any of you, but you might know somebody that it has happened to. I think it's going to be recording 8. Let's see here. If recording 8 is the right one. I think it is. Go to the mixer, turn off our 3D expansion, 3D. Check 1, 2, iPhone 7 with sibilance underneath a big pillow. Ooh, underneath a big pillow. You've never had a situation where your recording got muffled, right? Check 1, 2, iPhone 7 with sibilance underneath a big pillow. Ooh. So in this case, you're screwed, right? You could use a big EQ, but you're never going to, no matter how much you crank on that EQ for high frequencies. Check 1, 2. I mean, there's no high frequencies there. You're done. Unless you have a plugin from our buddies at Zynaptic. Now what I'm going to do is actually double click this and take us into this editor here. Check 1, 2. This is the Adobe Audition Spectral view. And what we're going to do here for a second, we're going to zoom out, I'm going to take all of this out to here. And for those of you who know about doing these kinds of things, I want to use a normalize. I want to process to 3 decibels, so it gives me some room.
Check 1, 2, iPhone 7 with sibilance.
I mean, it's just, you're basically, again, this is a compressed recording. I don't know if you can see, there's no noise up here, which means I recorded it on my iPhone, even though I used it at 96 kilohertz or whatever. No, I guess it was 48. You still have, it just isn't going to record past 14K really. So yeah, that data is missing. But nevertheless, the issue isn't with the compression, it's with the fact that there's a big pillow over this.
Check 1, 2, iPhone 7.
We got to fix it. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to go AU, in my case, or you can do VST3 if you're on a PC. Zynaptic. Unfilter. Now, this has been around for a while, and I remember the first time I saw this at NAMM a bunch of years ago. I had the guy demo this for me, and then I said, I don't believe you. I actually did not believe him. I brought in a recording myself and made him use it and cut off all the high frequencies myself in Logic with what he had there, and then had him resurrect the high frequencies. And I'm telling you, it was as if they'd never been gone. It's like a miracle for situations like this. And we do a bunch of examples of this in the education. But these are kind of, really, really complicated, we'll call it under the hood. A lot of math is happening here. It's a very, very complicated plugin to use. Let me show you. We'll turn this down. We'll turn that down. We'll put this about here. We turn these knobs.
Check 1, 2, iPhone 7 with sibilance underneath a big pillow. Check 1, 2, iPhone 7 with sibilance underneath a big pillow. Check 1, 2, iPhone 7 with sibilance underneath a big pillow. Check 1, 2, iPhone 7 with sibilance underneath a big pillow. Check 1, 2.
What? I mean, you're like, well, I could have done it with an EQ. Really, you think? Let's see. I'm going to bring up an EQ. Parametric. Here it is again.
Check 1, 2, iPhone 7 with
Let's use a filter.
Underneath a big pillow. Check 1, 2, iPhone 7 with sibilance underneath a big pillow. Check 1, 2, iPhone 7 with sibilance underneath a big pillow. Check 1, 2, iPhone 7 with sibilance underneath a big pillow. Check 1, 2, iPhone 7 with sibilance underneath a big pillow.
So yeah, you probably could, but what are we really doing here? Just bringing up hiss. And if you had a really bad example where the high frequencies just weren't there at all, like there are some there, they're just muted. I mean, what are we at here? 40 decibels shelf. Most EQs won't go there, except Auditions will. In fact, you can get it out to 96 if you want. But you're just really bringing up noise. And you're like, well, Mark, that other thing wasn't very quiet. Yes, but it was also doing a whole bunch of other things. Notice I also had to pull down 800 hertz, and there's a bunch of other things that I would want to do here to try to fix that and still not get the same result as I can with Unfilter. Now, what do these knobs do? I was sort of making fun that it was complicated. This one's sort of how much frequencies you want. This one is sort of what frequency you want to really emphasize. And this one kind of balances out weird. Notice how this kind of shoots up this frequency contour. It sort of balances everything out. And this one basically helps restore low frequencies if they're accidentally removed. And then you have these EQs in here, which are pretty graphic EQ, which is pretty self-explanatory. You do need to play it for a little bit so that it gets an idea of what the issue is that's going on.
Check 1, 2, iPhone 7 with sibilance underneath a big pillow. Check 1, 2, iPhone 7 with sibilance underneath a big pillow. Check 1, 2, iPhone 7 with sibilance underneath a big pillow. Check 1, 2, iPhone 7 with sibilance underneath a big pillow.
Well, that's a pretty amazing thing, again, without.
Check 1, 2, iPhone 7 with sibilance.
Well, what do we do about the noise? Well, let's do that. Let's apply. Now look what this looks like. Whoa. Notice that it definitely wanted to take up what the compression did not like. And we should, again, let me be clear, never be editing in a compressed format. Never, because we never want to be recording in a compressed format. But just to show you how horrible things can be, we're going to then do this in Adobe Audition. We're going to select this, which is pretty much the noise. We're going to go Effects, Noise Restoration Recording. We're going to say Capture Noise Print. It's remembered it. Now we're going to go to Reduction, Restoration, Noise Reduction Process. We're going to make our selection all the way out to here. And then we're going to mess around with some of these things. Now you're looking at Advanced, which I know During Gleaves would tell you who's the head of Adobe Audition. Don't click on Advanced unless you know what you're doing. They are sort of complex and sometimes not always easy to understand things. But for me, smoothing should always be all the way up. Your spectral decay should be very short. Your precision factor should be somewhere in the low zone. But we can experiment with it because this is going to be rough. Let's check it out.
Check 1, 2, iPhone 7 with sibilance underneath a big pillow. Check 1, 2, iPhone 7 with sibilance underneath a big pillow.
And as always, you always have the coefficient between all the noise and no artifacts, or no noise and all the artifacts. So you're never going to have like, no noise and no artifacts. So in this case, we need to find a balance that works for us. And we can fool with some of these numbers here and see if we can get a better thing. But, you're going to have some noise because this is some artifacts because it's pretty noisy.
Check 1, 2, iPhone 7 with sibilance underneath a big pillow. Check 1, 2, iPhone 7 with sibilance.
Let's try this one.
Check 1, 2.
Oh, I have to make a new noise print for that. If I change that setting, I have to make a new noise print. There we go. No, not all. Just this.
Check 1, 2, iPhone 7 with
Definitely not. We want to go back to, let's try 8K. It's going to ask me to do this. Come on. And I can get the noise print just from within this plugin as well, which I just did. Super helpful. Now let's try.
Check 1, 2, iPhone 7 with sibilance underneath a big pillow.
I don't know if you can hear the difference between 0 spectral decay. Listen to the high frequencies.
Check 1, 2, iPhone 7 with sibilance underneath a big pillow. Check 1, 2.
And at 2, it all goes away. So we want to have at least something in that spectral decay rate. If you go up too high, then it kind of feels like it's doing nothing.
Check 1, 2, iPhone 7 with sibilance underneath a big pillow. Check 1, 2, iPhone 7 with sibilance underneath a big pillow. Check 1, 2, iPhone 7 with sibilance underneath a big pillow. Check 1, 2, iPhone 7 with sibilance underneath a big pillow. Check 1, 2, iPhone 7 with sibilance underneath a big pillow.
And without.
Check 1, 2, iPhone 7 with sibilance underneath a big pillow.
That's pretty successful. We're going to hit apply, and there's your new waveform.
Check 1, 2, iPhone 7 with sibilance underneath a big pillow.
So we could have gotten more out of it, but remember where it was.
Check 1, 2, iPhone 7 with sibilance underneath a big pillow.
Pretty great result. So anyway, that's Unfilter from our buddies at Zynaptic. Let me go back to multitrack. And I haven't seen very many people using it, but I know that they do. Oh, I have it from the other. Cool. If anybody has any questions, this is kind of all I wanted to show you, just hoping that some of you might have some cool content for us to look at, but it doesn't look like anybody is. Welcome back, kind of waking up and shaking off the eyeballs, open them up. Welcome back to the fixed volume. Some obtuse stuff here this week, but we all get stuck with bad recordings, and sometimes we have to do some pretty hairy things to get them to sound right and to get them usable before we have to make that awful decision to go into ADR. If you go back to the edit volume, speaking of ADR, I was just talking with my buddies at Adobe about how amazing automatic speech alignment is in Adobe Audition. And if you haven't tried it, you definitely want to see how cool it is. In fact, it's still up in the edit volume on this channel, the YouTube channel. But it won't be for long. Once we complete the fixed volume, which probably is going to be here on the outside 3 weeks, probably the end of January, then both the fixed volume and the edit volume will be removed, and they'll be up in the Cinema Sound store and on our Vimeo account for purchase for streaming. So since you've been all kind enough to be with us here on this video, make sure you download this video from YouTube and have it for your archives before that happens. So that's about all I've got. Couple more days, man. We are going to have some great and exciting battery results. Nobody decided to kick it into to see which one was going to be the best battery. Here, let me give you a multiple choice. Ready? Here, I'm going to give you multiple choice. Which one do you think is the best? I'm going to pull this one. I'm going to pull this one. I'm going to give you a test of 4. Oh, yeah, we'll pull this one and this one. Okay. One of these is the all-around best value. One of these is second place. And one of these, I guess I can't get these all in my hand so you can see them. And one of these is the one that without question we will be buying from here on. And you're like, well, you mean that's a different one than the one that won the best value? It is, without revealing why. Okay, so here's the first two. Here we go. If I can get the picture. Can you see this? There. Yes. Okay, this is the AC Delco. Oh, I got my finger on it. AC Delco Super Alkaline and the Polaroid Extreme Alkaline, or droppage. Wow, this is harder than it looks to do this. I don't know if you've tried this before. Focus. The Duracell Durastrong or the Radio Shack batteries. Can I get both of these up here? So now is your chance to vote. Which one do you think is the best? Let me get all these up here. Get all of these up here. Both my very confused fingers. Up, up, there. There we go. Do these even read? You can't even read these? Oh, there we go. Ah. There. The Polaroid Extreme Alkaline, the AC Delco Super Alkaline, Duracell Durastrong, or the regular Radio Shack battery. Which one of these is the all-around winner for highest value? Which one of these is second place? Which one of these is what we will be choosing because it has something else that's even better than high value, which we surprised us. Which one will we be using here at Cinema Sound? And one of these is crap, never to buy. What do you say? Who says? I'm going to hold this here for another 10 seconds before my arms get tired of holding batteries at arm's length. It's like a workout. Okay, less than 10 seconds. There you go. Oh, man. Oh. Put your answers in the box. Come on, Max. Live a little. Anyway, I guess I could have done that on the big screen, couldn't I have, instead of on this silly little screen. Here's another one. Let's see. Who's having fun now? What else have I got in here? Oh, yeah. Check this out. I will tell you this. What we discovered between these two, right, the regular Duracell and the ProCell, what we discovered was that we were very wrong about these ProCell batteries. We used to think they were the best value and the longest lasting. Not only are they not longest lasting, well, no, I'll just say they're not the longest lasting, and especially compared with the Duracell regular. The Duracell regular batteries last a ton longer than the Duracell ProCell, which is like, what? But because these are so much more expensive, and these you can buy in the bulk of like 144 at a case at Amazon. These are way, way cheaper and a better value. Pretty cool, right? But in a transmitter, these in the ceramic transmitters at medium broadcast volume, they last about, I think it's under 9 hours. So not really a great choice for those of you who are on set for 10 hours at a time. Anyway, I'm going to play the music unless anybody's got, let's see. I'll guess the crap is Radio Shack. That's exactly what we thought too. We're like, well, we'll just buy these because these are going to show up the worst. I used to work for Radio Shack when it existed in AU. Wow. Fantastic. Well, Max, here's the thing. The Radio Shack batteries are the batteries that we're going to be buying from here on. I know, it's crazy. You're like, wait a minute, what? In multiple tests, dozens of tests, the Radio Shack batteries didn't show up as the highest value, but they're within a penny per hour of the highest value battery, which is the AC Delco. The Polaroid is the next, and that crap Duracell weak battery is nobody should purchase those. The Polaroid's the second. But the thing is with the Radio Shack is they last almost 10 hours in a transmitter, which makes them great for on-set transmitting. Because we were doing it at medium, and if you're on set, you don't need medium. You can be doing it at low, which will put them well over 10 hours if you forget to change the batteries. But more than that, all the batteries that we priced at their highest purchase capacity. So if a battery could be purchased like the Pro Cells at 144 per case, that's the price that we use. If you could price them out at 100, that's the maximum. That's the price we use on Amazon now. But the Radio Shack, the maximum is 36, which means that they are by far, because they can only get them at 36, they're far the best value if you were to take the other batteries and bring them down to you only can buy them for 36 or 48. Then they kind of go, they don't even place in the top 10. But for us, it's that it's the longest life and it's within a penny or so of per hour, per battery, of the best one. And the best one doesn't even get out to, I think it gets just over 8 hours. The AC Delcos get just over 8. The Polaroids get just over 9, I believe, just there. Neither of which are going to help us in a pinch, like what you've experienced, Max, on set when you forget to change your batteries and you're like, oh man, I'm in the middle of a take and I get the red light. So much juice in here. We found out a whole bunch of awesome stuff that's really cool about the Amazon basic batteries, which we didn't know. And if you have Fuji and Viromax, throw them away immediately. All right, let's see. What do I got here? Hey, Gary, Happy New Year. For music ducking, which is most useful, multiband compression or dynamic compression? When you say dynamic compression, do you mean the isotope ozone dynamic compression? Or do you mean something else? Or dynamic EQ. Yeah, that's what I thought you meant, the ozone. So if it's ozone, and just say if it isn't, they're identical. It's the same thing, except for that with an EQ, with the dynamic EQ, you have the benefit of being able to boost the signal, which you can't really do. I mean, you can in a multiband EQ, a multiband compressor, but it's really reverse expansion and it's kind of wonky. They're not really designed to do that. So if you want to have a signal cross the threshold and be boosted, then you got to use dynamic EQ. But that's not what you're saying. You're saying ducking, in which case, how many bands do you need? Does your multiband compressor do it? If so, it doesn't really matter. I will tell you that the one that's in Adobe Audition is one of the best multiband compressors in the world. Ironically, they licensed an older technology from Isotope to do it. So whether you use it in Adobe Audition or you use the multiband or compressor in Neutron, or like you're saying, the dynamic EQ, what I like about the multiband compressor is that I got a lot more controls. If you have a multiband, the dynamic EQ, you have a it feels kind of limited. You've got a threshold and that, but the release and the attack are kind of a little bit wonky. You certainly have the ability to change bands, and that's dope. If I really just wanted frequency-dependent ducking, in other words, reduction, attenuation, I would use a multiband compressor. I would use Dynamics, actually, if you're using ozone, because that's multiband. I would use a multiband compressor in Adobe Audition. Fabulous. So, but if I knew that I might need something a little more subtle, something where it crossed a threshold and I thought, oh, maybe I might need to boost it, or if I needed just I needed actually, a more EQ style way of editing where, hey, I want to boost the highs. I want to actually boost the highs, I mean, you can do this with a multiband compressor. It's just a little wonky to do it that way. If I want to boost the highs, but then when it comes in, I want it to be reduced, then I'd use dynamic EQ. Or especially if I wanted the highs to be low, like if somebody was, I don't know if you've ever done this before, but if somebody is really dark, if they're really muffled and their sibilants are just not coming through, what you can do is turn, sorry, the other way around. Yeah, sorry, I'm wrong about that. If they have a general dark sound and the sibilants aren't coming through, but you want to keep the dark sound, but you just want those sibilants to pop, then you use a reverse dynamic EQ on that high band, the sibilant band, if you will, so that when it crosses the threshold, it gets boosted. And it's a negative gain, and it works really great. I would use that. But I really only use that dynamic EQ for special cases, excuse me, when I really need some kind of special fix. And I don't think, I know guys do. I know guys use it on the master output of mixes, music mixes. I just don't, there's so many other tools that I would use before I had to use the dynamic EQ on a master bus. Individual instruments, absolutely. Especially on drums or something where I really want something to sheen or have a lot of control on an EQ graph and go, oh, well, if that gets too loud, I want to reduce. And if that gets too loud, I want to reduce. That's really easy to use and easy to think. I don't have to think multi-band compression and which ratio do I want. I can just go bang. If it goes over too far, I fix it. And I love my new favorite multi-band compressor. Don't tell anybody. It's C6 from Waves. I love that thing. It's got 6 bands, and it's a little not very intuitive, but the results are so nice. And the crossovers you can control, and I really, really, really like it. And of course, there's the multi-band limiter that Waves has too. And I hope all of you took advantage of their crazy great sale that they had over Thanksgiving, Black whatever the heck, cyber whatever sale. I probably spent way too much money on getting their stuff. Even though they're a sponsor, they don't like giving me anything for free, which is a little too bad. But so that's cool. Great question. Great question. All right, it's 7 o'clock here on the Pacific Coast, and I'm going to kind of play the music and start tearing things down. But if you have other questions, I'm going to leave the fires burning for a bit here. Hope you've gotten some value. Welcome to 2019. It's going to be a great year. Next week, I'm not 100% sure what we're going to be talking about, but I'm pretty sure we're going to get into expansion, how to use just the old school way of curing noisy tracks with just automatic expansion or gating. And if I can find a reasonable multi-band gate that's free, then we'll pull the trigger on that. All right. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you in post. Yay. Cue the music. Let's see. The music is here. Select the music. Turn up the music. Cool. Thanks, Gary. Thank you, sir. Oh my gosh, you guys. Look at this. My head's in the mode of batteries, as you can tell. I've been eating, breathing, sleeping batteries. Oh, where are these other ones? This is a regular Energizer. Oh, here we go. So here is your Energizer Max, right? The regular old one you get at the store, no problem. And this is the box that comes with the Energizer Industrial. Oh, it likes to key that color. Anyway, you would think, hey, I'm yelling over my own music. That's perfect. Good job. You would think, oh, the Energizer Industrial battery, again, keying so very well, I can get rid of my eyeball. Ooh, look at that. Ooh. would be better or more better value than the old one you can get at the 7-Eleven, right? The Energizer Max. What we discovered is that the Energizer Max is one of the longest lasting alkaline batteries. In fact, it might be the longest lasting alkaline battery that we've tested. The next longest one in a transmitter is in fact the Rayovac Fusion, the longest lasting alkaline battery. No, absolutely not. In no test was it ever the longest lasting. Maybe second place, but way down in the higher load tests. But this, it's super long lasting. This barely gets out of its own noise floor, and it's more money. Why would you ever buy an Energizer industrial battery? Never. Don't do it. Boo. I don't think there's anything else interesting in here that I want to talk about. I've been through hundreds and hundreds of these batteries. I'm like, battery. Have you guys ever heard of this? I had never seen this before. It's called Nanfu. Nanfu. It'd be like if you were doing an Ebonics commercial and somebody came up and said, "Hey, do you have any noodles? Nanfu." I know that was terrible. These ended up sort of being okay in duration and okay in value. Anyway, super exciting. Can't wait to share with you the results. It's probably the biggest article we've ever had, and I hope it goes far and wide because we worked our asses off on it. And you'll all know when it breaks. All right, guys, gals, everyone, thanks again, and we'll see you next week.